Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Yeah, it's been a long, interesting morning. Actually, I think it's probably even after. No, it's not afternoon yet. We've been up for a long time.
Yeah, we've been up for a while.
We don't sleep anymore. I don't know about you guys. So, Evolutionary, EEARTS, Heart's Own family. Thank you guys for being part of all three. Hopefully, you are subscribed to all three of these channels. And again, we are also still on Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. And Rumble does seem to be growing. Brighteon is curious, and Bitchute's curious as well, because it depends on the topics we are talking about. And we want to thank our Patreons, because we have some new Patreons from this morning.
Indeed, we want to say a huge thank you to Hank, Rodolfo, Tony, and Kelly. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you so much. We can't do it without you guys' support in these times. So I thought we'd start, because all we ever hear is global warming and burning up and everything is melting. Well, let's look at a snowstorm in the mountains in the heat of summer in Italy. Isn't that beautiful? Actually, today is chilly for us, and it's 77, 78, and it actually feels chilly. And, again, we can adapt. We will adapt. We have adapted in the past, and there have been many gigantic resets of different varieties around the globe, and there's always some that make it through.
Right. This is not their first rodeo, so they tend to do this over and over and over, just, slightly different flavors.
Absolutely. So I thought we'd cool things off before we get going. And it is the Lionsgate Portal. It'll be at its peak on the 8th. And, I never know what day it is. So I'm assuming today's the 8th, isn't it? It is. Yes. I lost a day somewhere. Time is just getting crazy. It's just getting crazy, because I said to Cindy, wait a minute. It sounds like we were just talking about it being Lionsgate like a month ago. But that was the 7/7 portal. Which, it was a rough portal for a lot of people, honestly, and many souls left the planet and headed towards Sirius, and we are Sirius.
Right, they did, and it's their choice how they wish to leave, and we shouldn't judge that with people. It's their time. It's how they want to exit. It's their way. It's something that they planned. So no matter what that looks like, just keep in mind it's something that they chose. And now we're having the Lionsgate Portal. This one, I've never really read anything on it. I don't look at other videos, but what I like to feel into stuff, really, is what I like to do, because I don't like to just kind of copy people, because you never know. You gotta know for yourself. And when I felt into this Lionsgate Portal, this is a time for renewal. It's a time for manifestation. It's a time to wipe the slate clean. Very much like a new year. It's like a new year for your life too. It's about taking up all of those things that are not working in your life and allowing them to release. And as you release those things, the new things that you want to come in can come in. So it's a really good time to write things down, let things go, and then ask the universe to bring in the new.
And that's a beautiful way to look at it. And we have that opportunity every single day, even when it's not on these portal times. So we wanted to share that. Here you see a massive explosion, Garland, Texas, Sherman-Williams paint plant in the middle of the night. No reports of injuries. And yeah, I wasn't aware of wheat being so explosive when we were talking about that silo exploding. I guess I was just kind of feeling straight into it, and it didn't feel like it was a natural occurrence to me. But yeah, apparently grain can be explosive. Well, I know beans can be, that's for sure. Ask Rama.
Yes, Rama knows.
Yes. Meanwhile, Zelensky threatens Russia might be left without ships amid emerging battle at sea, as we see. We're going to witness, and we are witnessing, a lot of new technology, battle drones. it feels like Star Wars. Well, that's because, reality is closer to Star Wars. Yeah, drones being used in battle. Everything is changing rapidly. The technology that we're going to get used to seeing is going to change rapidly. I think we are going to see, as it's been relatively a slow roll, we'll be seeing decades speed by technology-wise with what we're going to be seeing. So this battle at sea comes as Russia stepped up major assaults of Ukrainian ports, including on the Black Sea and in the Danube. And they've had damage to warships. As you can see, this warship not looking in a good position. More than once this has happened. But the reality is, again, the real battle hasn't fully gotten underway, but it feels like we are getting so very close. So the mystery behind Russia's secret VIP flight to North Korea, I feel, again, like this is just they're dotting the I's, crossing the T's. They're making their plans. Like, again, North Korea has offered to send tons of troops to aid Russia. And of course, North Korea will be aligned with China and Russia and Iran and many other nations in the coming battles. And again, this is all just coordinating timing, coordinating logistics, and giving people probable timelines is what I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that too. It's just a lot of refining, kind of clearing things up and getting things prepared.
Yeah, getting ready for what we can all see coming. China to Philippines remove illegally grounded warship from a disputed reef. Of course, the Philippines is an island nation close to China that the U.S. took possession of as far as it was, again, another property that was transferred during war, the Spanish-American War, which left the U.S. with control of Puerto Rico, but also the Philippines and Guam and so many other areas as well. And this particular ship was intentionally grounded on this reef, which is just below the surface over 20 years ago. And now China is saying you got to move it. It's because we're, again, the battle lines are being drawn, the sides are lining up, and the smaller nations that might not take an active part in the battle as far as providing soldiers and weaponry, they might end up supporting them logistically, as well as many other locations that we might not think would have been prime battle spots, like Nigeria. Here it might turn out this is one of the first confrontation spots that we have direct war between the U.S. and France on one side, with Russia and other groups on the other side. So you have Russian and Wagner forces now in Niger. And I should distinguish, there's Niger and Nigeria. This is Niger. And helping them prepare for the attack. The battle for Africa is about to begin. Yeah, literally, you have Russian military planes coming and going from this country, and you have U.S. military planes coming and going from this country. And you have U.S. and French forces, soldiers, like 2,500 of them, according to official reports, already there on the ground. Meanwhile, you have Wagner there. It's just a matter of where does this, fire get lit? Oh, and did you see this? Oh, look, it's another meteorite. Wait a minute. That's a confused meteorite. It stopped to find directions. Which way is the ground? Yeah, meteorites don't typically do that. But see, so much of what we've been told from Never a Straight Answer and all the other official sources, they'll give us labels. They'll try to, put this scientific light on it, like the average person could not possibly understand what's going on. You don't have your degrees. you haven't been totally indoctrinated into the system, is really what they're saying. And, try to belittle the person that just learns on their own with their scientific terms, which again, they mostly use Latin, and you just got to break down the words and you could understand what they're talking about, whether it's, listening to what your MD is telling you or some scientist somewhere. Yeah, meteors don't typically stop and look for directions. Oh, okay. Yeah, we were going in the right direction.
I know. I could see the argument with the couple in there. It's like, can't you please stop and ask directions already? So I'm sure that they found where they needed to go anyhow. I see a lot of these things where it just feels like more like something between a person and the energy around them, and it makes for some type of a ship that I don't understand, but they're out there, and obviously there's a lot of them.
So, we had several new people that we were consulting with yesterday, and, it just made me think of, man, all this stuff that Cindy and I kind of take for granted, that a lot of people are just waking up and they're not aware of how much toxicity is around us constantly. And of course, we got to recognize, and more people do now than ever, that, yeah, you could trust in all these 3-letter agencies, and they've okayed aspartame for 50 years. And meanwhile, it was probably causing cancer for 50 years. And it was, oh, you're okay. Yeah, the FDA checked that out. Yeah, it's okay. They say it's okay. Meanwhile, how many people have suffered and died from, well, what do you think? I mean, we could use different terms, from ignorance, negligence, opportunism, profitism. There's, or even things that are darker than all that. You might have heard of appeal, right? Well, this is organappeal. It's a food coating chemical on organic produce. Yeah, the Organic Consumers Association dropped a bombshell this week about a chemical substance called organappeal, produced by a company called Appeal, which again goes back to Gil Bates. Yes, yeah. And we have gotten that, he's not really what he looks like. He's not really what he appears to be at all. In fact, just a puppet. And if you want to see, what a dark controller can look like, and that's it, because he is totally just a clip-off. He's a shell, so to speak. So here you go. Organappeal only contains 0.66% citric acid, which is an organic substance. The other 99.44% remains a mystery. It's a mystery. Yeah, but don't worry. It's fine for you. Yeah. And you have the few and Gil Bates behind this. Yeah, sure. Also known as Edappeal, contains ingredients derived using toxic solvents that may leave behind residues of mercury, cadmium, and other poisons. Yeah, a 45-page document submitted by Appeal Sciences to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration as part of a generally recognized as safe GRAS submission to the federal agency back on October 9th, 2019. Wow, there was something else that was right in that time frame there too. There was a big event that was playing out at that point in time that was actually kind of like doing a dramatic scenario of what happened if there was like this massive outbreak upon the land. Yeah, isn't that curious how all these things are timed together? Again, they think we're stupid. I mean, they think we'll never put 2 and 2 together until it's too late. By the way, major spice brands found to contain heavy metals, the same sort of heavy metals that we were just talking about. cadmium and lead, etc. So, again, many of us can't stand Amazon and everything it stands for, and also Walmart. And yet still, because you could find a Walmart everywhere and anywhere, in the middle of nowhere typically, and you could always order from Amazon and get something the next day. Whole Foods, as we know, is now owned by Amazon. But yeah, Walmart's great value. $3.65 by Whole Foods. La Flor Spices, McCormick, that was a big one. Penzeys Spices and Spice Island were all among those tested. And again, arsenic, lead, cadmium, heavy metal, toxic heavy metal exposure, and not the musical type.
Mm-mm. No, I mean, and all of this makes for a really heavy energy body too. And our energy bodies, we know how important they are. They dictate what happens in the 3D, and they're just saturating us with it left and right. And then they're blaming us for it. So as they collect the money and fly around in their planes and drive their nice big cars and say that we are wasteful, there needs to be more of a coming together of people like us, and we just need to keep in our mind that there's way more of us than there are of them, and stepping away from this system is the best way to help support yourself and make yourself better. Start growing your everything at home as much as you can.
Yeah, and here's one of the things. Turmeric was one of the worst ones they found. Turmeric spices found heavily contaminated with toxic lead. FDA forces nationwide recalls for some brands, in fact. So what's their solution? Well, maybe you should try spices that are not so heavily contaminated, like black pepper and some others. Turmeric is one of the most powerful spices out there for everyday health. It is so powerful. It is so good. It's anti-cancer. It's anti-inflammatory. In fact, hard-pressed to find anything that would be singularly better than turmeric. Turmeric's fabulous. Ginger's great. Garlic's great. I mean, there's so many that can do so much for you. And do you think it's just a coincidence that turmeric has some of the worst heavy metal poisoning? No, because it can cure the most. This is how it works. This is so dang obvious. Oh, you sound like one of those CONS piracy theorists. Because you'd have to be an idiot not to see the connections. You really would have to be. So, they recommend, switch to black pepper, white pepper, coriander, curry powder. Again, curry powder. Curry powder, turmeric's one of the main ingredients in curry powders. I mean, that's even a stupid statement there. It's so frustrating to see this, is it not? It's so frustrating, this system that we're in. Wow, that guy really does look like Tim McVeigh, doesn't he? Well, his name is Paul Weissopal. And, he is basically the right age. It's curious, is it not? And he became an FBI agent about 2 years after the Oklahoma City bombing. And, some people have said it's the same person. Now, there's some articles that were trying to debunk it, saying clearly the earlobes are not the same place and all, overlaying. But then there's others that were showing that you could do the same thing with, like, Will Smith and, take a couple different movies and aging over time, and you'll see, I mean, the ears do get pulled by gravity. So, as we get older, the nose gets bigger, the ears get bigger, we do change. In some cases, we don't look that much like the way we used to look, although you could see a little trace, but this looks pretty clear. And so he started working for the FBI in 1997, only 2 years after the OKC bombing. And many of you might have heard, too, of, that guy, AJ, Alex Jones, and the comedian, that there seems to be a similarity there again. we talked about the actors phenomenon. The good-looking actors go to Hollywood, and the bad-looking actors go to the White House. And politics, again, this is all for public consumption. Public consumption. So, it's interesting because some people disappear, and some people might pop back into the picture years later. And, again, how many Bidens are there? There's a lot of Bidens. It's pretty obvious. It's not one person. It's pretty obvious. So, masks, obviously plastic surgery. And here's Jacques Vallée talking during the Watergate trials. False flag plans were uncovered originating in the White House to fake the second coming of Christ by using holograms on a surface submarine, which would result in an attack on Cuba. Well, we do know about Operation Northwoods, and that was, the plan, making it look like Cuba bombed Miami so we could go and, take out the bases there and take Cuba back. Actually, Cuba got its independence via the Spanish-American War going back 1897, 1898. And again, when you look at like a key player in that whole thing, it was Roosevelt, Teddy, and of course the two Roosevelt presidents were related. And, it's just so interconnected. It's all being exposed for public consumption now. So when we see this and Project Bluebeam, and we what it does is it makes people think that there are no aliens. But there are aliens, and we are being controlled by non-human intelligences. So this is a great distortion, and this is a great way of getting people divided yet again. So now you have more people saying, well, maybe there are aliens. And then there are other ones saying, no, because it's Project Bluebeam. And there was a great comment, too, that somebody made saying, all my fundamentalist friends are always speaking out and saying, the Freemasons, you got to watch out for those Freemasons. And you just said that King James of the King James Bible, which they always say is the one Bible that you got to go to, that's the one you trust, was the head of all Masonic lodges. Yes. I mean, again, there's all sorts of intertwined positions. This is the most intricate web you can imagine. And they have people in all different phases to cover every single angle. Again, they know some people are going to wake up to this, but we could keep them under control because, they're so indoctrinated over here, they'll never, let go of that indoctrination. As you see, we have three choices: Project Bluebeam, man-made reverse engineered UFOs, or CJI, and again, preparing the groundwork for the fake alien invasion. And then you have Stephen Greer, too, who is another one that's been talking about and disclosing a lot, but at the same time, look into his energy, and what do you see?
Right. I think like with all of them, they have good intentions, but they're out there to control the narrative. So these people are given a really large platform. They're given, a microphone that reaches far and wide so that they can control the narrative. To them, control is the most important thing, next to food. You have to control what people hear. You have to control what people consume. And that way, they're going to get exactly what they want, what they need. And that's why Mike and I, we spend so much time on here talking to people and teaching them how to go within. Don't take anyone's word for anything. You go and you weigh in your own heart. That's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah, there was another person that made a comment too that said, "Oh, I'm new to the channel, interesting stuff and everything," and then was like, "Show me the proof that you have of, the fact that the atmosphere outside, or what we call space, is not a vacuum, but actually it's somewhere in between a liquid and the air." And so, the person was like, well, show me the document that supports that. How many documents support things that are untrue? you're going to believe it because you're going to see it in a scientific journal that was maybe funded by
a scientific person.
By again, somebody that's part of the Illuminati, or part of the whole. You trust the science, in other words. No, and they're not going to obviously let things be okay. They're always debunking. It's a constant debunking right now. We talked about the Peruvian villagers attack, and again, more and more videos are coming out of this. Apparently ongoing, and again, it's happened also in Brazil. And then Jacques Vallée was also, again, talking about how the Secret Services from the U.S. would, and along with military personnel, be faking alien attacks on exactly these type of people in Latin America. And so, again, they have every base covered. So, it's feel into it. And it does feel like there is something here with this particular case. And it feels like this is a cover-up. And they already have the groundwork laid by putting out their Bluebeam, by putting out there that, hey, they're going to fake alien attacks. It's really going to be our military. Actually, there was, and I don't even remember the name of the movie, but there was a movie that was the whole premise, that there was an alien invasion, and it turned out that the aliens were not aliens. They were actually U.S. military. And yeah, I'm sure there are cases of that as well going on. This is, again, that area where you see, and it is very, very remote. And you got to wonder why do they want these people? Well, it came up with our conversations with different family members. Maybe they're looking for a certain blood type or blood purity. That very well could be, because again, when you see the abduction phenomena, which has been ongoing forever, it's always centered around DNA, genes, toxicity levels. It's very much like what you have going on is some sort of big lab experiment on planet Earth. And the other thing too is, this one mentions rods of God and the laser technology. As you can see, a blast here. Now, is that CGI or is that, again, real? Well, the technology is very real. And a lot of what Cindy and I share is from firsthand experience, or secondhand in the case of the people that we know that have directly experienced things themselves, that we feel the energy from them is honest and legit. This takes me back to a friend of mine from the 80s that was older than me, and he had spent a lot of time in the military. And, he told me back in the 80s, 87, I believe it was, that when he was in the military, like, it would have been around the end of the Vietnam War, he watched them blast a hole through a mountain with a laser. This would have been 74-ish, I want to say, somewhere around there, that he witnessed that. That technology is obviously in the hands of the US, China, and Russia. And then when we talk about the real controllers, we can't even really conceive of that technology. This is from Peru too. And Peru, again, Cindy knows, we're going to Peru if we live long enough. It's on our bucket list. We're going to have a fun time down in Peru at some point in time. And I wouldn't post this automatically. I asked Cindy to feel into it because so many of these you automatically dismiss as CGI, except for the fact that we took a very, very similar video, and we have stills too that we shared with you guys. And you guys that have been with us the whole time, you've seen us reference this multiple times. There was a being like this that we didn't know was there, and we did a video. And I want to say that was a Friday night because it was busy and we were scrambling to try to find a place to put the RV and camp. And we camped on one side of a pond, and on the other side was a farm loaded with farm animals. And we were doing a video and we were talking more spiritual stuff. And, we're not noticing what's going on. And then all of a sudden we had family members saying, did you see that thing that you captured on film? And we had gotten our door on our camper knocked on, and it was the police with the campground owner, and they wanted to know where Zeke was. Now, Zeke was a pit bull. He was a 65-pound pit bull, but he was the sweetest boy in the world, and he really wouldn't hurt anything. Something killed like 20-something sheep and goats that we had videotaped. And when we looked at the videotape, it looked like this.
It looked exactly like that, and we were making the video across the pond, and you can see on that video where the goats come up and they're looking at this thing, and then they turn and they run away. I mean, this was really incredible because this thing was not visible to the naked eye. I remember the goats acting weird. I'm like, what are they doing? I could not see this thing. And then this does show up. So, I mean, this was one of the creepier videos that we've ever accidentally done. We didn't do this deliberately. We were just talking about stuff on a spiritual level. And this thing was right there. And that so happened to be about the same time when that triangle came around and we got zapped. So, yeah, this thing was really horrible, had a horrible energy. They did come around and knock on the door of the camper because they wanted to blame Zeke. They knew that somebody had checked in with a black pit bull, and they were trying to say that some pit bulls slaughtered all these goats, but these goats were their throats were slit. It was, really horrible situation. And these things are very, very real. I think that's where a lot of people are sitting on the fence, and it's easier for them to say, oh, well, the government just staged a fake alien invasion. These aren't real people. They're just, they're not real aliens. They're just people dressed up in some weird space garb, because that's the easy way out, when it comes to belief systems and trusting those that we feel cared about us as we grew up. So we trust the teachings that we've been given, granted from very, very good people, like our parents, like our Sunday school teachers, like our preachers, like just people that we feel pure of heart, giving us the truth. It's just easier to misplace the truth than it is to face the fact that we are not alone, and there's entities out there and they want things.
Yeah, and again, what we did, the original video was called Our Encounter with a Flying Triangle, because we were in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and we were looking for farmland, and we liked the climate, and so we were looking around at different properties, and there is a military base there, and Cindy, I was driving, it was dusk, and we're towing, and Cindy says to me, there's a triangle, look. And there was a triangle following us right alongside of the road, and it was blasting us with radiation. Cindy could remote view inside, and yes, there was reptilians with U.S. soldiers inside the triangle. And it blasted us with radiation, and I do think that they thought we would be dead, but we were able to recover. Although we really did get sick, and then Sassy got growths, and then Zeke ended up passing on, because he had rampant cancer. So we were blasted purposefully by the triangle. Why did they blast us? Because they could see that we have active pineal glands, and they could see our auras with their equipment, and they know that we are activated. So we have the ability to perceive things that most people don't, that are, again, drinking fluoridated water, eating all the GMO foods, not doing a spiritual practice, and not cultivating their energy bodies. So that's the threat. So they have to eliminate the threats. And that's exactly what they do, one way, shape, or form. And, again, we saw this. Now, it's interesting, too, because we did this video. As you see, it's got a little Anunnaki Wikipedia. The dark power structure, Anunnaki-Draco-Djinn, how they feed on humanity, thought forms, Allah and Yahweh. Because, yeah, if you are sending energy to Allah and Yahweh, you might think you're sending energy to the creator of the universe, but in reality, you're sending energy to the power structure that feeds off of humanity because, again, they've corrupted and distorted everything. And they have us set up so that we're always sending them power one way or another. It's such a intricate, well thought out plan by these beings that are hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years ahead of us, with understanding how the universe works, and they take advantage of this. So when we see the jinn are used by these beings as a tool. And these beings are very dark. Think the ring wraiths from Lord of the Rings, from the Hobbit series. They are somewhat powerful. They can definitely hurt people. Absolutely. They can also, as we know, those goats and sheep lost their lives. They can manipulate other physical entities, and they do. And it's fascinating because this is a depiction of them. They look like a fire elemental of some sorts. And, it's fascinating that people will read the Bible and the burning bush. Hello, it's a burning bush. It's a jinn. It's so obvious. It's the same thing that we are looking at here. This is the same structure. This is the same. Again, we do fight a spiritual battle. Define spiritual. In reality, we're talking about multidimensional. It crosses different densities. Yeah, this is the realization that we really need to hammer home.
It's kind of an art to look into the 3D and see what's happening in 3D and be able to translate that information to a different dimension. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes going within, it takes understanding. Some people have that naturally, they're very gifted, and they choose to utilize their gifts, go within, maintain them, and hone them, which we can all do. It's just some people are from lineages where it's already been done and they can already do that. But there's several different ways to do that and translate from 3D to different things and have an understanding of what's going on in different dimensions just by looking at what's right in front of you. But people, they're in the matrix and they choose to watch different things, mainstream news, but that's okay. That's what they choose to do. I prefer to know more what's going on around me in different dimensions. It's just part of me. It's part of who I am, and it's part of who Mike is too. And then these little guys were so cute. We both kept staring at these little guys for as long until we figured out they were ducks. It's like we decided, we called them fuffalumps to start. Just little fuffalumps until they revealed themselves.
Absolutely. So again, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Be as prepared as possible. Again, we encourage everybody to join us also over at Heart's Home, because there's some serious tools over here. And the mantras can raise your vibrations up. The mantras can really drive out dark energies. And you'll have people that think the only name that could drive out dark energies is Jesus, but he wasn't even called Jesus. Again, Yeshua, and he was here to talk about that dark power structure. That's what he was letting us know. Hey, you are behind enemy lines. When the Pharisees and the Sadducees came up to him, he said, again, hey, your God is not my God. But then they have altered everything about him, turned it into a blood sacrifice. And again, people they don't always take the time to look deep and develop your own perceptive abilities, which obviously with you guys, you've been with us for so long, the vast majority of you do get it, and you do have your spiritual practice. So it's time to take that to a new level. Much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.